Hello, this is Sheshachalam from Astroguide Mysore. So, continuing the series of medical astrology, today we are understanding the fourth house and the diseases and the body parts which actually it represents in detail. So, earlier we have done the first, second, and the third houses and also the Kala Purusha from medical astrology class number 1, 2, 3, and 4. Today, I think, is the fifth class. So the fourth house starts just below the uh, upper rib and then covers the chest region, the lungs, the sternum, which is somewhat located near the solar plexus, the place where your rib separates, or you can have a soft pressing point is there just below separation of the ribs. It's a very soft point, and in certain martial arts, that is the point which is also a very susceptible point for attack. So solar plexus, one of the chakras, the main chakra of the chest is solar plexus. So in women, it represents the breast, the production of milk, and as you all know that the fourth house is governed and the signification of the fourth house is controlled by moon. One part of it is moon, the other part of it Venus. So let us understand what is the part which moon controls. Moon controls all that watery phlegm associated parts of the body, like for example the breast which produces milk. So the variation in milk production also depends on how good the fourth house is posited, and we can see nowadays that there is a lot of difficulty with lack of good production of milk, and many women are going through that problem when they are having childbirth. The other part is the phlegm which gets accumulated in the lungs, causing pneumonia, bronchitis. So, bronchi, the branching of the lungs, is also to be seen in the fourth house. And we can see that there are several branches after that. The main branch, the bronchi, then you have the several branches, small branches which go into the lungs, which actually, the alveoli or the breathing region where the oxygen is then converted and then taken into the bloodstream. So this particular system, the whole phenomena is to be seen from the fourth house. So I think yesterday somebody has sent me a mail telling that please discuss about asthma and asthmatic patients, of how cancer, the sign of cancer, and Mars associated with cancer. Somebody has asked this. It's a good question. I will take that up later. But here I can emphasize one point is that if you are trying to understand allergies, if you are trying to understand diagnose asthmatic patients, if you are trying to diagnose breathing problems, fourth house is also one of the most important houses. The whole breathing tract, starting from the first house, second house, third house, and the fourth house. First house minimal because it just happens to have the upper sinal, region, sinus region. The second house has the main nose and the tract, the nasal tract. The third house you have the important windpipes, and you have the fourth house where you have the splitting of that, the bronchia, bronchi going into the bronchioles, and then you have the minor and minor. It's like if you cut open a cauliflower longitudinally, from the top, keeping the base on the stem on the top, and just see how it has branched out. That is how the lungs are. That is how the, cutting over, cross section of a cauliflower. You can see that this is the stem, and then you have a lot of sacs. This is called the air sacs. So people who are associated with allergies, people who are associated with smoking, because smoking causes a kind of a deposit, a tar deposit within the lungs. And people who are working in hazardous situations, like people working under the mines, deep down under the ground where there are poisonous gases, a lot of different type of gases which actually go into the body. And people working under hazardous conditions where uh, plastic effluents are there, acid waste is there, or anything else is there, they get the burning sensation in their lungs. um, so, see, for example, I grew up in the region, the Kolar gold fields. So I knew what is cyanide. The cyanide, not as the pure product. There was a lot of waste which would come out of the gold mines in the Kolar gold fields. The KGF film has shown you those things. There was a heap. I think it's still there. And children who were uh, those children whose parents were working there had their quarters very close to the cyanide mound. It was a huge hill of waste mud, and it was like a plateau, and these children would play cricket over it. I would always feel how tough it is, man. It is so tough. We also did not know when we were children, but our parents would tell us, don't go there. These white sands are cyanide waste. It's very dangerous for your lungs. So, occupational hazard, to be with regard to airborne diseases, with regard to allergy borne diseases, with regard to, like, for example, today it's happening in Delhi. It's impossible to breathe. It's impossible to breathe. Morning walk in Delhi is suicidal. So, how difficult, as an Indian, I feel that I am trying to tell this, in global media, that the Delhi's um, environment has gone very bad. And that is not because only of the pollution what the vehicles are generating. It's not like that. It is because Delhi is situated in such a place that the wind will come carrying all the dust and particles into Delhi, and it gets stagnated there. There is some geographical problem there. It's not that it's a purely Delhi's problem, or else they would have attacked the problem and it would have got cleared up. The winds which are coming flowing in from Punjab, they take all the dust and the soot and the the when the sugar cane or something is grown and it's burnt, you get all that smoke and dust coming into the Delhi atmosphere. It is not one problem. It's a huge socio democratic problem. We need to address that. The government is doing as much as it can, so it's not one man's problem. Everybody should understand that we cannot simply point a finger at somebody. But still, generally speaking, Delhi's air pollution has become a global uh, eyesore for India. It's very difficult for me to even tell that, but that's a difficulty as per astrology that can cause difficulty to your lungs. So all these diagnoses of lung problems and breathing problems have to be seen from the fourth house. The palpitation, the you know mm, what they call as pigeon heart. You have the fluttering, you have the skipping of the beat. Now, these are all, some names are there, fibrillation, something, some name is there. So, but anyway, I have not done that much of research into that I get all those words so easily to my mouth. But still, all those problems which are related to the cardiac, that too particularly the upper heart, the myocardial membranes, the RCAs, the LADs. RCA is the right coronary artery, the LAD is the left arterial descent. All this have to be seen from the fourth house and also the fifth house. The lower heart, that is the ventricles, have to be seen from the fifth house. The upper heart, where the aorta, the main branches are there, the super Vanakavas, the inferior Vanakavas, and all these big veins which actually have brings back blood into the heart. All this have to be seen into the fourth house. The um, esophagus, very important. This is, I encountered two or three cases where two clients of mine had esophageal cancer. So to understand that and diagnose that, it is a very rare thing to get that as an astrologer. But it was so difficult for me also to understand at that time. I'm talking about around 12 to 13 years back when I had got a case. So esophageal cancer is not that prominently available everywhere, but still that can happen because of many reasons. But in this particular case which had come to me, it was because the person had was practicing a particular kind of a diet, and for years together he would not eat solid food. So what actually had happened is the process of uh, food moving into the stomach, the process itself had slowly died down, and it had actually, the it had got what we call as inflated or deflated. It had got shrunk. It had shrunk into, and they had to put a probe. They had to insert another fiber device or a pipe or something like that. They did some suture. He went through a lot of pain. So I know that client very personally. So I'm just talking about this. So people are asking me remedial measures now itself, but very difficult to give astrological remedial measures without getting into the details. But a simple remedial measure by Uttara is that for the fourth house, he suggests oil bath. Let us understand what is oil bath, because globally people will not understand what is oil bath. People don't even understand what is sunbathing. So sunbathing for the first house, is very important. Oil bath for the fourth house is very important. Sunbathing is like, you sit in the sun, you show your body to the sun, all the 360 degrees, you show your body to the sun, 5 minutes for each side, and that actually gives you a lot of strength. It's a morning sun. Oil bath is, we all have gone through this, when every Sunday my mother would call me. She would ask me to simply sit in front of her. She would take a hand, palm full of oil. I'm not just joking. It's a palm full of oil, and it would be castor oil. We would use castor bean oils. It's very, very good for our body. The castor oil. She would actually smear it all over my body, put a lot of oil on my head, and ask me to go and sit in the sun. So this is a therapy for both the moon and the sun. So it cools down your body, and along with that, it charges your body. That is because you are sitting in the morning sun. So only after sitting in the morning sun for 1 hour or half an hour, depends. You don't have to get burnt. So we would be in our shorts and bermudas. We would all be young fellows. I would be talking to my friend who would also be in the same state, sitting across. So we would all be upstairs. Say in the open. So I would be talking to him, he would be talking to me, and we would have be passing jokes. We were all in the same school, but we would all be, half naked with only our bermudas, with all oil over our body smeared. Same timing. All children would be going through the same thing every Sunday. This is an excellent therapy for your body. If there is difficulty with regard to breathing, with regard to vitamin D, and with regard to many other problems. So, for sun and moon, this is an excellent remedial measure. So, on an overall, if you go to the fourth house, we are easily talking about the lungs, we are talking about the sternum, we are talking about the upper heart. We can also little bit talk about the liver, but liver usually falls in the fifth house. But we are not going to suggest the liver. We are talking about the upper heart. We have forgotten one very important thing. That is the ribs. So we should not forget the upper thoracic region and the rib cage. So the people are not doing any exercises for the ribs, except when you do weightlifting, when you do bench presses, when you do your pull-ups, your push-ups, you are now giving exercise to your ribs, the muscles which are over the ribs, and it makes you very strong. So calisthenics particularly emphasizes on building very good breathing and chest, and this particular exercise is good for, yeah, pranayama also emphasizes on breathing. And why pranayama emphasizes on breathing is because you give a lot of flow of good oxygen into your lungs, and then your blood circulation becomes a rich oxygenated blood, which will actually give you a lot of prana, that is strength. So thank you very much.
The remedies
Yeah.
cannot be explained because planets associated has to be seen.
Correct. Remedies cannot be easily explained, as madam is telling, is because it all depends on who is the fourth lord, what are the planets. That is what PAC, what we call as position, aspect, and conjunction with respect to the fourth house, has to be analyzed, and only then remedies have to be given. So, thank you very much for today's class.